So one of the questions I get as a professional harmonica player is, do I really need more than one harmonica? Or alternately, people look at my harmonica box and they go, why do you have so many harmonicas? So I'm going to answer that question today. Let's imagine that you are, as you look at this video, you're somebody who has one. Maybe it's in the key of C, which would be a good one to start with. Maybe it's some other key, maybe a G, which is probably not a good one to start with. Maybe somebody gave you an F because that was all that was left in the local music store. So we've got the C harmonica. Now, one thing that's not obvious to a beginner is that the C harmonica actually happens to be kind of right in the middle of the range of the easily available stock harmonicas. If we're talking about that range of harmonicas, your standard, and I'll talk about marine bands, but this would be true of any major brand, standard low harmonica is a G, and that G sounds like this. It's good for train songs, maybe. The standard high harmonica is an F, or, well, an F sharp. I don't have an F sharp, but actually F sharp's probably the standard high one. This is an F. Now, G, F. Now, what's not obvious, again, to a beginning player is that both of those harmonicas are set up exactly the same, which is to say, if I play 2-draw, 3-draw, 4-draw, I get the root, the third, and the fifth of whatever key I'm going to be playing in. Like Rock Around the Clock. Now, that was the G. If I take an F, same thing. Okay? So the intervals, the scale degrees, the chords are laid out exactly the same, which means that your skills are transferable. So let's say we start on this C harmonica. And again, I haven't really answered your question yet, but let's say I start in the C harmonica. What can I do with the C harmonica? Well, I can play it in the key of C, and I can play songs like Oh, Susanna. I can play on the high end of the harp if I'm good. I can play kind of bluesy stuff using the 8-hole, 9-hole, 10-hole blow. How about that? Little vibrato in it. Okay, so that's what I can do on the C harp. But I can play cross harp, of course. I can play in the key of G. And that's the sort of standard blues tonality that you might be used to hearing, and maybe you want to make sounds like that. Oh, I meant that note a little bit wrong. Okay, that's my C harp. That's the harp that fits in this long row of harmonicas. Okay? Why would I ever need another harmonica? Well, and by the way, I can play in other keys too on that C harp. So I occasionally will play in the key of D on the C harp. Okay, kind of a minory sounding thing. So I've got three keys that as a sort of basic, competent blues harmonica player I could play in. Now, if you're really good, if you're a Howard Levy, if you're one of those guys who can play in all 12 keys on a harp, I guess you can get by with just a C. I'm not one of those guys. And when the guitar player changes key, I want to change harp. And I know that the licks that I'm playing on the C, let's take the C. Good basic blues. Now, I play a song in the key of A flat. I go one step up from that C harp. Now, the C I'm playing in the key of G, right, when I do that. Wah, 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 wah. Okay? I can go up a half step. Gonna take you downtown, put clothes on your back. Now, I love the D flat. This is a D flat harp. It's not easy to find. It's there, it's out there. But I happen to like to play that song on that key harp. It just has a nice sound. It's kind of right in the middle. The way that C's right in the middle, D flat's kind of right in the middle. But what I might do is I might start, why do we need all these different keys? Well, some people would say, why do you need more than one woman? You meet a girl when you're 16 and she's the one. Why would any young man or man need more than that? You found the right one, and how lucky you are at 16. Well, now, live a little, get out there, get that heart broken, and pretty soon it turns out you developed a romantic past. Well, harmonicas are sort of the same thing, which is to say each harp has its own virtues. I'm not saying, and of course there might be women in the audience, and if you're out there, maybe you need more than one man over time. Each harp has its own virtues, its own beauties, its own delights. Another way of thinking about it might be, why would you ever need more than one car? Well, sometimes you need a truck. And that's the best way I think about thinking about the low harps. They're sort of like trucks. They're big and low, they make a low roar, they don't go around the corners too fast. The high harps are better for that, but they kind of pack a lot of weight. They're really good for that train song. So this is a G harp. That really has that kind of... Now, if I took an F... Suppose I took a high G. This is an octave up. It's a whole different deal, right? It's a whole different deal. Sounds good, too. Well, I'm a poor boy a long way from home. That sort of feels like a Howlin' Wolf. All right, A flat. Well, I do one song on that, a Stevie Ray. Well, you talk about love, bringing eyesight to the blind. My baby's love caused the sun to shine. She's my sweet little thing. Pretty much in key. She's my pride and joy. You know how it goes. So A flat, I do a couple of things on the A flat, not as common as that G harp. Now the A harp, there's no blues harmonica player who can get by with just a C. You've got to have an A because you're going to run into guitar players who want to play in the key of E. And the A harp is the one you need if they're playing in the key of E. So if I want to do Got My Mojo Working, got my mojo working, but it just don't work on you. Now, a lot of the stuff I did with Mr. Satan, Sterling McGee, in the duo Satan and Adam, we did on the A harp. So I got to play the A a lot. Now, once half step up from the A, probably my favorite harp, the B flat. When I started my YouTube videos back in 2007, I had a B flat that sounded good, and I still like the B flat. Somebody once told me if you're going to be checking out a mic and an amp for harp, you should always do it on a B flat. It's just low enough to get those low notes to whoomp, but it's high enough. And I'm not sure why, it just seems to have a kind of bright, whoa, baby, you don't have to go. I just love that. Little Walter used a lot of B flats. Now, B, you do not really need a B harp. There's very few recordings out there. Most of the recordings, I suspect, if you find a recording that's in the key of F sharp, which is what you'd be playing cross harp on a B, I suspect probably the original was on an A harp, on a B flat, and somehow in the course of, or C, and somehow in the course of remastering, it got moved up or down close to a half step. That's my hunch. But every once in a while, you pull that B out. There's a wonderful version of Tighten Up on It by Johnny Young, Mississippi Mandolin. That kind of stuff. Okay, so I have a history of liking to play along with certain recordings that happen to be on those keys. Now, of course, the C, we started on the C. You can't go wrong. It's right in the middle of the range. Okay, I love it. Now, we did D flat, D. Very important harp. Very important harp. because you're going to run into a lot of stuff in the key of A, and especially rock blues, one way out. Right, you're going to have. Now this happens to be a custom harp. Joe Spires this is one of those, $130 harps. I blew out my stock D, so I pulled this one out. I don't like to take it out too much because it's just so nice and so pretty. It's like having a sports car. And of course, at one point I did Crossroads Blues. Anyway, this video is getting much too long. I did Crossroads Blues on a D harp. E flat. Now, you might say all those flat harps, E flat, D flat, B flat, A flat. More important if you're going to be playing in a context with horns. So the E flat is for playing cross harp in the key of B flat. B.B. King did a lot of stuff in B flat. So E flats, for me, it's the nicest, it's the sweetest of the high harps. I really like it. When you move up from E flat to E, well, I do a couple of tunes in that key. Rolling Stones did Miss You. Yeah, I think Miss You was on that. Midnight Rambler. Real high, E. Don't get to play it a lot because it's for the key of B. But if you ever get in a situation where somebody wants you to play The Thrill Is Gone, that's the key of B. So you might do an A harp third position, but anyway, am I making sense? I hope so. F. Now F. Jay Giles' band did a lot of stuff in the key of C. Anytime you're going to be near a piano player, you're going to need that F harp because piano players, especially if they're not that good, they're going to want to play in the key of C. It's the basic piano key. It's a good blues key for piano. Now, good blues piano players can play in anything. They can certainly play in E, but they like to play in C. F is a high harp, and a lot of people, when they play it, they don't tend to go way up on the high end. I do a version of Southbound by the Allman Brothers. I'm going southbound. Lord, I'm coming home to you. Well, it's not really my singing key, but anyway. And then finally, we get to one of Joe Spires' high G harps. It's a custom high G. Whoa, it's high, it's bright. I think high harp's really slow. People forget that. You can move around on them so fast. I wish I had both hands, but I'm holding the camera with one hand. That's it. Why should you have all those harps? Why? Why should you have that many harps? Well, it's an investment, obviously, but if you are somebody who says, you know what, I know I was born to play blues harmonica, you got to start to build a collection. Now, one final thing is, so let's say you have a C. What's the next one? What would you get next? If it were me, I would make the A next because you're going to run into a lot of guitar players who want to play blues in E, and that's what the A is for. Then I would probably get a D, again, because blues guitar players want to play in A, and so the A, C, and D, or in order would be a C, an A, a D. Now what's the next one? I'd probably get an F, and there's another reason for that. Not just that you're going to run into blues piano players, but and they're going to want to play in C, and that F harp is going to be right for them. Okay? But I think it's really important as a developing player to learn how to play from the low ones to the high ones and make the subtle adjustments of embouchure that you make in order to get the best possible sound out of the different keys. That's the important thing. You don't come to each one. Imagine if you came to a soprano sax with exactly the same mouth shape as you came to a baritone sax. Wouldn't work. Same thing's true for harmonica. You're going to be subtly changing the shape of the inside of your mouth, every little thing in there, your lips, different amounts of strength, right? That's why we start with a C, but then it's important to kind of branch out. Now after that, what would you get? I would get an E flat, because I think B flat blues show up a fair bit. Then it starts to get interesting. What would you, if you've had those 5 harps, C, A, D, F, E flat. What's the next one? I'm curious. Well, it's obvious to me. It would be a G. In fact, some people would have said you need that G earlier because you're going to play some blues in D. There are people out there who like to play blues in D. And because G is a really good kind of train song harp. So those are the six, the first six. And what was the order again? I said C, A, D, F, E flat, G was the order that I said. These are debatable. I think most people would agree that an A, C, and a D should be your first three, but somebody might say an F should be one of those. Now, what would you get after that? Those first six? I'm thinking in terms of what harps do I find myself using on the bandstand. Certainly the two that probably end up there's four that end up last, and that is B, which you basically never play, F sharp, which is rare, and then A flat and D flat, those sort of weird flats. What does that leave? What have I forgotten to mention? Well, did I say B flat? Did I just leave B flat out? I went to E flat before B flat. That's crazy. B flat should be one of your first six. No doubt about it. B flat should be in there. You know, guitar players don't like to play an F, but other people are fine with playing an F. Yeah, so that leaves your E. That leaves your E, basically. I can't believe I left B flat out. Anyway, that's the end of this lesson. That's why you need more than one harmonica. I hope I see you down the road. Bye-bye.